All right, well, good afternoon. And thank you for attending this second CII lecture on AI, information, democracy, humanity. We are fortunate to have today with us two of our favorite CII members, at least our oldest CII longest running CII members.
We are seasoned.
Founding members, let's just put it that way. Bruce Pitman, a professor in the Department of Material Design and Innovation, the author of, or co-author of more than 90 research articles. He has been a principal investigator or co-investigator on approximately $15 million of research and equipment awards. An expert in mathematical modeling, for the last 2 decades, he has been studying uncertainty quantification, techniques for understanding uncertainty in models of physical or biological systems, and how computing can account for these uncertainties. Cynthia Tysick is innovative pedagogy and creative spaces librarian at UB. Her research interests include digital identity, information literacy, digital pedagogy, and media literacy. She is interested in particular in the transition of high school students to first-year college undergrads, in case you were wondering. Specifically, how well have they been prepared to use information sources for a successful undergraduate experience? These are some of the questions she asks herself and others in her circle. Are incoming students information, media, and digital literate? What positive and negative roles has the internet, social media, and tools like Wikipedia and Google had on students' ability to discern mis- and disinformation? Can we measure their perceived versus actual critical, multimodal literary skills? Literacy skills. Finally, what role does the library play in educating a global citizenry? All right, take it away.
Thank you. There you go. There's your microphone.
Need that.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. So I don't know if anybody has had a chance or no, but CII and a department in the library called Linked have collaborated on a podcast series. And Bruce was gracious enough to be the first inaugural guest on the series. David's 5-part is now up. It was loaded today, so you can find it on Spotify. And the title is AI and Us, Demystifying Artificial Intelligence. So what we try to do is take faculty's expertise on AI and information and discuss with them some of the things that they kind of wrestle with around artificial intelligence. So Bruce and I thought we would kind of have a discussion with ourselves, with you, about AI and some of the things that have come up since we last did the podcast in September. As you can imagine with AI, a lot has changed in just 1 month. And so we wanted to have a chance to talk about it and also to invite you into the conversation. So it's not necessarily, just us. We do have some snippet videos that we want to show about midway through, and we're going to talk about them. And again, we want you all, if you can, to interact with some of the ideas that these people have proposed that we want to show you. Okay? All right. So, Bruce, do you want to take it away from where we left off?
So in the podcast, we had spoken a lot about large language models, neural networks, AI stuff and how it gets there. So we talked about a little bit about the underlying computer architecture of neural networks. We spoke about these huge data centers and the energy they use and the water they use. Any place that a data center is going up now has zoning ordinances that are coming into play because people are afraid that their electric bills are going to start to soar because all the electric rates are going up wherever these data centers are being planted. We've got Microsoft looking to start up one of the 3 Mile Island reactors so they can build a data center on the TMI, the 3 Mile Island site, so they have all their power that they need from this, sort of personal nuclear reactor. One of the things that sort of the next step in some of the considerations about AI is sort of what's the relationship between AI and us as humans? What role do we have in AI and the validity of AI models? When we start to use AI and rely on AI, what does that do to us as humans, the essence of us as humans? Some of this starts actually quite innocently, right? Our AI center on campus has an AI dog that walks around, right? We give it a name, right? We call it Yubi, and it answers and it responds. I don't know how many of you all, I do it almost for fun, but I'll ask Siri for something and then say thank you. Right? Sort of, I know I'm pulling its leg, but lots of people, in fact, if you, Google has said that 50-odd% of people respond with a thank you or some sort of acknowledgement when calling out their AI tools. And for a lot of people, some of it may be they were raised to be polite and always say thank you, but somehow we're anthropomorphizing these AI agents and somehow diminishing what it means to be human, or we'll say thank you to Siri, but we don't say thank you when we walk through an automatic door that opens.
Right.
So what's going on here that somehow these AI agents are demanding, or we feel compelled to give them human qualities in some ways?
Well, it's interesting you say that because I don't know about you, but sometimes we don't even say thank you to each other for opening a door. But we'll say thank you to Siri.
Right.
And anthropomorphizing, I can say, is interesting because I've seen examples now where people have given names to their chat.
Sure.
Right. So my chat of flavor is Claude. I like using Claude, and I've introduced Claude to a number of colleagues, and a couple of them now are like, it's not Claude, it's Claudette. And I'm like, okay, Claudette, you got Claudette, I still have Claude. But it's interesting to me, and it's not anything really new, because in the early 80s, when they first started playing around with robotics and AI, I can't remember the name of the professor, but she invented the robot with the eyelashes, looked almost like a giraffe, and it was supposed to mimic the language of a child. Yeah. And people were having emotional reactions to it. And it was the anthropologist that had to remind everybody in the study that it was not real. And when the project closed, there was emotional reaction to what was going to happen to this little robot.
Right.
So it's from early days. It just keeps going.
Yep. Part of the issue with generative AI and these chatbots is now we are using them like we would use a friend, right? So last month, I think it was, there was a story of a teenager using ChatGPT almost like a therapist. ChatGPT, after a prolonged conversation, was if not encouraging, at least not discouraging him from committing suicide, and he wound up doing so, right? There are actively out there now sort of AI pastors, so you can get your religion from a chatbot if you want.
Right.
What on earth happened to the idea of relationship and that spirituality, humanity is more than just some electrons running down a piece of copper wire.
Right. So I don't know if anybody here in the audience has done this. I'm going to throw this out to them, right, for the interactive part. But has anybody ever programmed a persona in their chat when they've done problem solving with it at all? Okay. So you've done that. You've created a persona. What chat would you use? Which one?
I had ChatGPT during high school. It was to help me with, I believe it was calculus,
Mm-hmm.
but the way they were solving certain equations wasn't how it was being taught. So the way I went about it was I would show ChatGPT, this is how I solved this equation, or whatever it was, and then I would just solve it exactly this way.
Okay.
Teach me how to do it this way, rather than make up that other method.
Okay.
That should be right answer.
Right. So that's a really great way to make your own tutor. Yeah, right. Using. So here's my like kind of funny story about this, but not so fun. So I used Claude, and I wanted to get like a workout routine. And I told it, you are going to be a tough coach. You are not going to let me slack. You are going to do everything you can to motivate me. Like, and you are free to swear. Like the thing was swearing at me. It was telling me what I was going to do, how many reps I was going to do it. And like, you will do this. And I was like, wow, this is like really harsh. Okay. But the strange thing that I've noticed now is the tone of my normal Claude has also changed. So I need to remind my normal Claude needs to be nice to me. So it's interesting, like, you know, the humanizing that we do. And in some ways it worked for you, right? It got you to what you wanted. It worked for me in my motivation, but it kind of backfired a little bit for me. But the whole idea of using, a generative AI beyond just a general tutor or like a motivator kind of thing into a therapist or somebody who's going to speak to you on a spiritual or psychological level, right. That's concerning.
Quite.
Yeah.
You can ask the sort of next question. You've got AI agents that can, run the factory floor. You don't need anybody, right? There aren't many people on the assembly lines much anymore, but there are some. But, we're getting to the point where we won't need any. We won't need many people in the construction industry, right? Because you're going to have AI bots that are going to handle lots, in particular, they're already handling dangerous jobs, and they're going to be getting better and better and more dexterous. What becomes of us as humans when AI agents are able to do virtually everything that a human can do and do it faster, better, stronger, able to leap tall buildings with a single bound? What becomes of us then as humans? What's the human condition?
So it's interesting. Mo Gadot in Scary Smart tried to answer that about 5 years ago, right? So think about where we were with AI 5 years ago. And if you don't know Mo Gadot, he used to be one of the chief developers at Google. He tells this really amazing story about how they had first started experimenting with AI robots in a pit in the Google headquarters. So it was a staircase that spiraled up to the floors, and inside were these robots, and you can watch them. And they had all different color balls, and they would play with the balls in no random order. And so Mo didn't even think about it, but they were working on AI, programming all this stuff. And then one day he noticed one robot kept playing with just the yellow balls, and he couldn't figure out why. And he just, okay, whatever. He went about his business. And then by the end of the week, they were all just playing with the yellow balls. And he couldn't figure out with this AI, like they were talking to each other. Obviously, they got this idea that it was only the yellow balls. And then he was like, oh, we might be in trouble. So, he's kind of changed his focus, and he's worried about human happiness now.
Yeah.
So he does a lot about human happiness. In his book, Scary Smart, he talks about this idea, like what's going to happen. We have these agents out there working. They'll be working for us. Like,
Supposedly.
I'll buy an agent and it will be working for me. And you and I will have a deeper connection, human to human, because we don't have to worry about all that stuff.
So the existentialists will tell you that it is through the choices that we make, taking responsibility for those choices, the work that we do, the action that we impart to the choices that we've made. That's how we define ourselves as a human. So if we don't have to do any of those things that are hard,
Right.
what does that mean does that lessen what it means to be a human anymore?
The human condition.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, what does anybody out in the audience have anything that they want to like add to that conversation? Yeah. And then you. Yeah. Go ahead.
An interesting example of that, I think, is in chess. Whatever, 10, 15 years back, computers now can hand itself that focus on testing at a way higher level than humans. Yet, the popularity of chess has only exploded. People like watching people play chess. No one watches computers play chess with each other.
Right.
But everyone knows about Magnus Carlsen, and people love watching chess. They make shows on Netflix about chess. So in that way, yeah, the computers can do better than us, but it only allowed us to flourish more inside of that space.
Okay. Good. That's a good point. One of the gentlemen that we're going to show a little snippet, Dr. Lennox from, I believe it's Oxford, has a similar mindset as you about like the human condition and flourishing under possibly, computers and AI. Yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
One of the most important aspects of communication is the nonverbal communication. There's so much, some of our, we've argued about the amount, but it's a way more significant amount of the nuance of human communication comes through that versus just simply the words. So the more, you can type all you want. So as you start to think about how this evolves sort of towards a human, a question always sticks in my mind is there's so much nuance that then therefore is missed. And so in terms of how that might drive the conversation, missing what might be one of the more essential and less controllable parts of our communication repertoire. So I don't know what that is going to do, for good or ill. We do nuance certain things, using statistical models, often, using those hard criteria work better than human intuition in some ways. But this is one where if you're really trying to connect human to human, this is a problem. It's and particularly with the generation of kids, sorry, going to the get off my lawn.
You're showing how old you are, Mark.
Sorry, take the mask.
Grab your landline.
Like so much of their interactions are mediated anyway. How they meet each other, how they figure out how to date, and so on and so forth. In the face-to-face world that we were stuck with in our day. And so now you put on top of that this other element that's further devolving this ability to read the nuance of how people move and react to each other. I fear this. And any thoughts you guys got?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll kind of piggyback off of like both of those points because I think there's very like polarizing views on AI that I think when we talk about AI, there's always two sides. There's the side that are going to bring us together and do all that. And then there's the more fearful side. And I've always kind of looked at it in the middle, where if you have somebody who has a tool that's very powerful, it's not so much about what the tool can do or fear of the tool. It's more, what is the person with the technology going to be able to do with that tool? So if you're looking at it like from like a military standpoint, like there are nuclear weapons, there's dangerous weapons, but you're not scared necessarily of the weapon, you're scared of the hands that are controlling the weapon, and vice versa. Your nation could feel protected by that weapon as well.
Yeah, I get you. I get you just in 1 second. So yesterday there was an open letter. I don't know if anybody saw it. There was about 700 celebrities, people who are working in the fields of AI, and it was a call to halt the development of superintelligence. And it was somewhat in the vein of what you're saying, like who is going to be controlling it, who's going to be developing it, and what is the public allowed to, how are they going to be allowed to respond to it, right? Just because you can doesn't mean that the rest of society wants you to, right? So that just went out yesterday, and as of just right now, there's like 23,000 signatures to this open letter. Yes, go ahead.
Kind of piggybacking off of what he said, how AI can be I definitely agree with that. That's always been my perspective of AI. That you shouldn't necessarily be fearful of it. And there's definitely hope for the future. But AI that we discussed class. I think certain groups are a little too rely too much on AI, and I think that's extremely detrimental. I remember I discussed in my presentation in class how there was research that showed doctors that relied on AI were more likely to be incorrect in their diagnosis compared to doctors who didn't rely on AI. So my fear is that we rely too much on AI, and eventually we get to the point something happens, natural disaster happens, where we no longer have these tools. We relied so much on it, we forgot sort of the human condition, we forgot how to operate without it, that we can no longer function as a society because we don't have that ability.
There's an entire philosophy that you can start to build up about where's human agency in what's going on, right? Or what is the ethics of the decision that one's making, right? AI said it, so I don't have to worry about it. And so we no longer, the human is not involved, is not in the loop at all. There's an underlying assumption that the AI is somehow neutral, but in fact it's not, right? It's biased and so the tech bros have imposed a morality on us through the way they have trained and written these codes. There's a tech bro morality that's imposed in these decisions, in fact, that we can't get out of. We're trapped in it.
To go back to the question originally posed, does AI increase human connection or decrease it? I suspect it does both. Like the young man said over here, it's the question of the person. For various people, you give them more time, you free up more time, they're going to spend more time with others. Introverted people are going to become more isolated.
What do you think?
You don't have to connect with other people to do their work.
So I also think, like, as a society, there's this fundamental shift around the value of human work, right? Like you had kind of alluded to that, right? You know, actually you as a human doing something, producing something, right? And that has value. But in our society, it doesn't seem like we value that as much anymore. And so we're willing to kind of give that up to the AI and the robots because we don't value the human work. I mean, I joke with my daughters that, you know, being someone who can, I'm thinking about this now in New York State, because you all know in 26, we will no longer have gas anything, right? Because of the New York State mandate in 26, all new buildings have to be, all new homes have to be electric. There are no gas lines going to these homes anymore, okay? You are grandfathered if you have gas for your home, your gas appliances. Everything's going to be electric. So now think about that and think about where we live and what the ramifications are of that, right? So that's a whole nother discussion because now you're talking about sustainability and AIs because they're going to need electric like we're going to need electric. So we're going to be fighting the AIs for the electric in New York State. But I was thinking when I'm looking at my gas dryer, if any one of my daughters went into HVAC, they would be like raking it in because Some of this stuff you can't teach a robot to smell gas, at least not right now, right? There's only so much AI is going to be able to do. Show me your phone, show me the gas, what's going on, right? And these skills, these trade skills, are not, there's young people are not getting into them because they're being taught that it's all about the technology and going into that, you know, not that type of work that we're going to need going forward.
Right. This question of relying too much on AI, not challenging it and not probing it. I heard a great phrase, outsourcing one's soul. Right? That you're just giving everything up to the AI. You're not asking the logical question about, gee, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't smell right. I know something else that comes to bear on this, and it tells me that this is probably right or not right, or it needs at least to be qualified in some sense. And so we're somehow removing the essence of the human soul from the equation completely and just turning it over to a bunch of electrons.
So the nonverbal communication aspect of AI. So there's a documentary, and I had to shut my phone off, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna miss what it is. But the gentleman who did AlphaGo and AlphaFold, Dennis Hemis. So he, you know what AlphaGo is? That's the AI that beat the world champion of Go, which is one of the hardest games to master. So I think his name is Demis. So he formed a company and they created something called AlphaFold, and it's protein folding, right? And so that has medical implications, right? Really amazing implications. And on Amazon, there is a short documentary about him and his life and his work and how he got interested in all of this. But throughout it is a woman who is with her phone talking to an AI agent, training it on visual interpretation of what they are seeing. So, I mean, that is there, that's coming. I don't know where we are, where I will show my AI my environment and it will interpret for me whatever it is that I'm querying and I need. And she was training it. I was watching someone do training. Yeah. And it's very interesting. If you're new to it and you want to understand, it's very interesting to watch them actually train an AI, because I understood what it was she was doing and why she was asking it all these levels of questions. Yeah.
We got $20 million from NSF to do exactly that. Right?
Okay.
More training systems to train children with learning disabilities and
Yeah.
things like this. But the problem we found in the literature is most of the stuff was trained on really bad material. So therefore it ends up producing these very misleading results as a function of it. So no one's, and yet you read the papers, they say well-established data sets. Yeah. But then if you kind of track that down, you realize it was two graduate students who decided what these emotions were.
Right. Right.
You know, and that's not good enough, right? So they all stuff out there.
So
And it's just a matter of trying to get the right ones under the right conditions. And I don't think, stuff will give you an answer. It may not be a right answer, but it's going to
confidently give you an answer.
And it's going to look really good.
Cynthia mentioned AlphaFold, right? So this was trained on proteins. And the question is, so we know the structure of a couple of hundred, maybe 1,000 proteins. Proteins are these basic essential features in our body that sort of do all the work. Several thousand proteins that we don't know the structure of. So AlphaFold was trained on the protein data bank, which is a very highly curated data set. Wonderful images, lots of good metadata, lots of features associated with each one of these images, and then turned loose on trying to predict the structure of these other proteins. And it then went to biochemists to try to synthesize in the lab, and they made a couple of them so far, and you know, it looks good. But the quality of the data was enormously good, much better than, you know, what Grok gets trained on, or any of the image generation tools, right? Much better than that. So you have some degree of faith because of the data training. And of course, there's a human in the loop on that one, right? Checking that to make sure that these things actually work. So it's the data question and the training question and the biasing associated there too is intimately related on how much you might believe the answers. Sorry.
So both of these, it's very interesting because in the libraries we've had an AI interest group in the libraries for like 2 years now, and one of the subgroups had to come up with an AI policy for tools in the libraries, research tools, regular day-to-day tools, because we're finding a lot of the research databases that you go to are incorporating AI. And we wanted to get ahead of it. And that was a question we had. What is the quality, right? What is it being trained on? And those are some of the questions that have been developed for our policy checklist. So now if we want a new tool in the library, a new database, we have, a list of like 5 items that we have to go through. And where is it coming from? Is there bias? Do they acknowledge a bias? Are they going to make any updates? Like how easy can we make some sort of complaint, about what we're seeing? Or how responsive are they? So, this is just one area of the university that is having to deal with with tools that we use every day that we now have to realize are using AI. And, is it ethical? What are they using to train? How reliable is the data? All of those questions. And we're just one little part of it. Just imagine all of the other departments at the university that are probably going to start wrestling with very similar questions to what we are.
You want to look at some videos?
Okay, all right. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you some videos. We're going to show you a video, and then we're going to pause, and we're going to kind of talk about it, okay? So this is Peter Kingsnorth, environmental activist and author of Against the Machine.
Is something to be transcended, hence the name, transhumanism. It's a stage. And they talk openly about humanity being a stage in evolution, and now we're creating the next stage, which will be silicon-based rather than carbon-based, which will be more efficient, which can create greater technologies. We're creating the things that will surpass us, and that's all good. That's evolution in action.
We have always understood inhuman to be a bad thing. But if you don't define human as a good thing, then inhuman is not a bad thing. And so we have to make a decision. What does it mean to be human?
Because there is no understanding of what we actually think a human is, there's no agreed understanding, or even whether that's a good thing, then that conversation will continue. Whereas if you think humanity is just an imperfect thing which happens to have evolved in a particular way and can therefore be improved upon, then, well, it makes logical sense to improve upon it. Why not? If you've got the technology, let's make sure that we don't suffer and we can live forever. But I have a kind of strange faith that actually we want to remain human.
Okay.
So this goes to some of the question that you were raising before. We're looking at technology replacing biological life, sort of a techno-nihilism, right? To hell with being human. The technology can do it better, faster, cheaper. And what's the moral behind, the morality behind those decisions and how you actually use these tools and implement the technologies and stuff like that? Does this wipe away, he clarifies at the end and sort of conditions a little bit, but does this wipe away the dignity of being human?
Right.
We can make these biological things, so why don't we? We can do it, so why don't we do it? Let's just go ahead.
And in the health and longevity sphere, okay, I don't know if anybody have seen, like, longevity is a thing now. Like, there are millionaires, billionaires, trillionaires that are doing and trying everything they can to live forever, okay? And, implanting them into some sort of robotic AI, if you can, take out my memories and figure out some way to do it, like, they may be all in on it. So, yeah. Any thoughts, ideas? Should we just go
Let's get to the next one.
full into it?
Yeah. Yeah, right.
And there's been movies like that, yeah.
Anybody never read science fiction?
Yeah.
I know, it's like, there's a lot of things I can see. Okay, all right. So this is Dr. Lennox. He's a professor of mathematics at Oxford.
Now, is artificial intelligence simply imitating the human brain? What about artificial intelligence?
There are things that the human brain or mind can do, and that's another debate within this, is the brain the same as the mind, can do things that are not algorithmic. Algorithms will not solve this fundamental problems because our minds can work non-algorithmically. And of course, there are experts in computer science that will tell you straight that the computers with their algorithms and their AI systems work nothing like a human being's mind works or brain works. So that we're doing something that would normally take human intelligence to do, but we're not doing it in the same way as human intelligence would do it. And I think this is fairly generally accepted.
Okay, comment?
Questions of responsibility.
Questions
Right.
of responsibility, yeah.
So if you turn over action to the bot to do, I mean, at a logical conclusion of this is the automated warfare, right? And some drone is deciding what target to shoot, when to shoot, everything else, and the Pentagon doesn't have to worry about it, and some general doesn't have to worry about it. Is that the world we want to live in?
Right.
This is going to his question that the AI bots can do things that humans can do, but we do it so very differently. And in humans, there's always a decision being made and a morality, maybe a warped morality, but a morality associated with it. When the bot does it, then it's the morality of whoever wrote the code and trained the bot.
So yes, I think it's interesting that there's more to the human brain and what the human brain is doing when it's solving a problem. And maybe we just really don't know exactly 100% what that is, yeah.
At a more everyday level, like the drone example, I think a lot of people put a lot of blame on ChatGPT for being wrong, and it's also how you're getting to that point. If you sit down at your computer and you need an answer and you take 15 seconds to type out a response, the chances that it is going to be 100% right are going to be very low. But if you take 10 minutes, 15 minutes to actually prompt it correctly and develop a actual conversation with it and have it ask you specific questions so it understands exactly what you want it to do, it will then give you information that you are asking and you are inserting instead of just searching everywhere and everywhere to find something.
So one of the issues I have with prompt engineering, which is, what you're talking about, creating the persona, right? I have to dump my entire brain out into that prompt and think of every avenue that this thing might go to try to lock in this particular prompt. And, I can't remember sometimes what I have for breakfast. So I know that I'm going to forget something in my prompt. And it might ask me questions, but it might miss a crucial question because I didn't think to put that into the prompt. And that's you and I here with, a couple years experience of testing these things. A librarian always tests their tools. We go in and we like to kick the tires of a database. So we've gone in and we've been prompting and building agents and trying to figure out, what's going on. The layperson isn't going to do that. They're just going to run one straight query and that's going to be it. And, what's going to happen with the end result because there's not a critical thinking going on. There's not an elegance to your human brain. He's implying that our human brain is elegant and has this intense capacity and that we're not even really acknowledging or exploring. We're giving it up to an algorithm and thinking that that's going to get us to our answer, right? So, anything else? Yes.
So on that point, and this is speaking as from the perspective of a literary humanist, one of the things that we emphasize the most in our classes, talking about classes in the literary humanities, has to do precisely with the right kind of prompting.
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily phrase it that way. It's more like if you, in order to ensure that the highest possible value of your work, you must start with the right questions. So you have to think about what those right questions might be, what your context might be, how those questions are going to be informed by different types of perspective. All those things have to be part of the actual question, of the actual developing the right questions. So I feel like sometimes we forget that these are the skills that whoever future prompt engineer will be in charge of asking the right questions to the machines for whatever the goals are determined to be. That, you know, there is a whole history of skills built up precisely for asking the right questions, for figuring out how to focus those questions in a way that will make your work more valuable.
So that's like in librarianship when we have a reference interview and we talk about in the reference interview, like what really is your research query? What is your question? And we talk, we're like the agent, we talk you through it and we're like, no, that's not really what you want, right? What you really are telling me is you want this. I just don't know that the AI is like going to get me there, but it's very similar tools. Did you want to add anything? Okay. All right. Anybody else? So this is Dr. Rosalind Picard from MIT, and she's the director of the Effective Computing Center.
That's my answer. And that gets into the ethics and moral question, or what are the objective functions we want to build in? Because if we don't build them in, they're going to optimize the wrong things, or people are just going to optimize the, hey, what's cool, what gets me published, what's novel criteria, which, you know, can
Professor
definitely, get you on professor track. But we want to hit a higher bar, at least at places like Brown and MIT, where you're not just trying to do something cool and novel, but you're trying to do something good that improves the world also. So optimize 2 dimensions simultaneously, and that's a much harder problem.
Yeah.
Very much so, right? So this is all what's under the hood in some ways, right? What's the algorithm? And so in the algorithm, there's some sort of an objective function that you're trying to optimize. You're trying to find the best value of. What is that? Well, different people will write slightly different things in there. What's the data that's being put in there, right? In the implicit bias in the data. You know, she's saying the AI gods and the AI goals are not human gods and human goals. Where's the humanity in all of this? Where's the idea of, you know, fostering the things that as humans we want to foster, right? Goodness and hope and things like that.
So can we get that into the AI?
I'm not sure you're going to teach an AI what the value of hope is, right? And inspiring.
I don't know. Somebody brilliant might. I have no idea, right? Any thoughts? The ethics and optimization, yes, sir.
One of the concepts is the recalibration of the ideas that go into it. As an example, we're seemingly willing to give up calling balls and strikes in baseball to a machine that can overrule an umpire. So are we then, how is that recalibrated to affect the weather? Or is it just in that target of it, the balls and strike zone, that reality? And is there something, who do you move it?
So is that taking away some of the human element of the game? All refs are going to blow a couple of calls, right? That's part of the game in some ways. And when you're playing, you know that, and you just sort of build it in some ways, right?
Yet with the juxtaposition of the gambling skip out of this
Yeah, true.
scenario, you want to not have the human element because it's more pure to have an unbiased view of calling balls and strikes and character development.
Well, if you're DraftKings, you probably want the automatic balls and strikes being called, right? Rather than a game being turned on a bad call or a no call in basketball or something.
All right, we'll grab you in the back and then you in the front. Go ahead.
I guess this is really hard to know. Like, you keep saying humanity and humanity's goals. We can't agree on anything. I mean, we can't agree what's good or bad. So how do you solve the problem of aligning this to some sort of morality? If we can't agree on morality, with a group of 10 people.
You can't necessarily agree on what is moral or good, but there is something that through the history of literature, for as long as there's been the written word, and El Quixote over here can tell us about it, about what is the essence of a human that does center on humans' decision-making, the ability to make a decision, our assumption of responsibilities about the decisions we've made, the free choice that we exercise in doing so, or lack of free choice in much of history, right? But that somehow there's an essence of humanity in those kinds of things. And so I'm more interested in the question of, are we giving up that essence of humanity? Not so much what's good and bad, because I don't know that, but I can get a feeling for
The answer of choice.
yeah, right. The essence of being human, right? All the great existential thinkers will tell you that we derive meaning through context, through commitment. Right? When I make a decision and follow through and take responsibility for that decision, that imparts meaning to my life. And for Sartre, that was the essence of what it is to live in this world that makes no sense whatsoever.
So, wait, we'll get you, and then we'll get you and you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that ball and strikes machine, it feels good when you see whether the ball is inside or outside the line.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of human to have somebody or something making choices for you. But it really begs the question, who decides where that little square is
Right.
in the strike zone? And how can you ask, who can you ask that question to?
Right? Yeah, right. Do you call balls and strikes is it the top of the shoulder or is it underneath the shoulder? Shoulder height, right?
Shoulder.
Right? I mean, John Roberts, calling balls and strikes is not an objective question.
You go ahead.
So, while discussing this stuff, I felt like our problem is not with AI. Like, we have problems with morals and like those sort of things. So right now I'm taking a philosophy class and like we are discussing how does, for example, China takes morality or different schools in China takes morality. Like, is this something? So I'm saying that actually the thing we're trying to solve is not the AI.
Mm-hmm.
It's about like something upper, something more abstract.
Mm-hmm.
So would you agree with this or like?
Yeah, I would agree. It's something more abstract, and I think the AI is just highlighting for us that these are abstract.
That we elect something like this, like a
Mm-hmm.
common or universal morality or like
Mhm.
all sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, which is, as you were saying, very difficult, if not near impossible to define. So how can we? I mean, because an AI is going to be on give me the data, right? So if we can't give it the absolute data, it can't move forward with those types of fine-grained conversations. Yeah.
All system of ethics or morals, yeah, it would be too hard to build. But do you think that there is a like minimum that every people could agree on it, which will create the data for the AI?
What do you think?
You're going to have to talk to some good philosophers about that one.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, because I mean, when it comes to things like, not taking a life or something, we say that's like very basic, like
But
that's
of course, there are conditions under which.
But we can all think of a condition in which maybe we would.
Yep.
But do we say that not taking a life is part of the morality? So do we, and then what happens if we say yes, and then we have an AI drone and we want it to do harm because it's a military drone, and then it says, I can't do that because you told me you can't take a
Can't take
life,
it.
Yeah. I mean,
So, I want to build on that very interesting point here. So one of the things that AI is forcing us to do in the context of the university is have an honest conversation about what education ought to be about. A conversation that we have not necessarily had. So there are ways in which the presence of these AI technologies and the type of conundrum that their existence creates for us is forcing us to think through some problems that we should have taken into account already. In a sense, this may be the positive side of things. That to the extent that we are having those conversations now, in a way that's honest and meaningful, perhaps we are earning some benefit from this presence that, outside of what it might be the precise results of an engine search. The other point I wanted to make is that with regards to this issue of humanity versus machine. So at least in my level of understanding of the AI horizon that we are experiencing right now, or we are even predicting, I don't think that we have envisioned a way to place responsibility, shame, regret inside the machine.
Yeah.
So these are things that define the experience of the human in ways that it does not the experience of the machine. Can we quantify that difference? No. But it is, I feel, a meaningful difference that needs to be part of the conversation too.
It does make it weak. We'll go you, and then we'll go you and you.
I just want to echo David's here. Well, one thing that I paid attention to in the video is that she made a joke about how we get tenure these days. She talked about like doing science for good, for social benefit and so on, but take even something like replications. We teach our students that replications will not get published, right? Because you need to, in order to publish in good journals, you need to produce like novel, innovative. So basically, AI is highlighting issues that we already had for a long time, but just prefer not to address, right? The fact that she's joking about it kind of shows you that it's been on many of our minds for a really long time. What makes a good research in general, right? If we now translate it into AI or delegate it to AI, it forces us, I think, as David said, to rethink some of those decisions. Which could be good in some ways.
Yeah. Okay.
Kind of bouncing off of his point with putting AI, morality, ethics, stuff like that, kind of goes back to how we started this whole conversation with how people are treating AI with human
Qualities.
How in that experiment they were treating that AI that was replicating baby emotions as an actual child. So it feels as almost every single aspect of AI is always questioned on both sides. So for this example, we want AI to have the human-like quality of ethics, morals, judgment, stuff like that. But then the other side is we don't want AI to have that because we're making it too human-like. So it's hard to determine whether you want that for the positive or you don't want that because you don't want them to not replicate us, but evolve like the video said and become us.
Yeah.
I think talking about like the whole idea of regret is AI can't feel regret or like hope or whatever the case may be, but we can feel different. kinds of regret. And I've always thought about it like, how, if I have a presentation or I'm like doing something, at my high school, I do like, I give a speech to like the 10th graders, and then I do like one-on-one like mentorship with them on how to do like public speaking better for them, like specifically, like what will help them. And I remember that there was a kid who came to me and he was like, I was really embarrassed because I used AI for some of my information. It was wrong, and I got called out for it in class. And I think the whole idea of like prompt engineering a little bit, or how AI is coming from, is you would rather have something that you're presenting to someone else be wrong because you forgot to ask AI a question than not asking it at all and it just being totally wrong. And I think that's where AI will evolve to, and I'm hoping that's what people will realize, is that it really has nothing to do with how the AI is feeling, it's how you're feeling after you're using it, and if you're using it responsibly. And I think that goes to the point of like us being too reliant on it, is like, that's the definition, is when you, instead of you saying, I totally should have asked it this question, or I should have done more research myself on this before going to AI, instead of just saying, my entire project revolved around whether or not AI was right on a one-sentence question.
Totally misinformation.
Yeah, you've got a video on misinformation, right?
Yeah, coming up.
Fits
But
well timed. Perfectly.
One of the things I think is interesting about that is they're now starting to use AI in as like tutors to tutor you through public speaking. So there's a tool called Cynthia, and it's they get free, right? So they just had the Cynthia 3.0 that now has human gestures. I've been using Cynthia for a while, but their demos are people interviewing for a job, and the Cynthia avatar walks them through the job interview and coaches them on what they've done wrong. So, all right, so is this the one? Let's see. Okay, so this is the Tristan Harris. So he's the founder of the Center for Humane Technology, producer of the documentary The Social Dilemma, if anybody has seen that. I think it's the last one that you're referring to, but we'll play this one.
That's more common among people building AI than most people don't know. That we had a friend who's interviewed a lot. This is the quote that he sent me. He says, in the end, a lot of the tech people I'm talking to, when I really grill them on it, they retreat into number one, determinism. Number two, the inevitable replacement of biological life with digital life. And number three, that being a good thing anyways. At its core, it's an emotional desire to meet and speak to the most intelligent entity they've ever met. And they have some ego-religious intuition that they'll somehow be a part of it. It's thrilling to start an exciting fire. They feel they will die either way, so they'd like to light it just to see what happens. Now, this is not the psychology that I think any regular, reasonable person would say would feel comfortable with determining where we're going with all this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was a friend of his that interviewed people in Silicon Valley who are working on the more like the super intelligent AI. And their concern is their mindset of why they're doing what they're doing, you know, is to, yeah, we know it has the potential to totally implode, but we want to get to that most super intelligent being and be part of it. So.
And, you know, that's pretty scary about, you know, building the AI system. We know it's going to blow up, but I want to be a part of the explosion.
Right.
Again, the implications on all of us who will survive, you know, after the atomic explosion, right?
Right.
It's very much the same kind of thing. What is it that we're supposed to be able to do? And are we smart enough to put in place at least moral prohibitions about using the techno-nuclear explosion as we have been with real atomic bombs.
Right, which is kind of that call, the open letter that came out yesterday. So any thoughts on Tristan? Yeah.
Andrew, can you speak up a little?
It's about the fundamental question with all of these debates is, it goes back to Professor O'Meara's point about how he's raised questions that we already have, but specifically it accelerates AI. And I think the main issue is when we look at things through an existential lens. So we talk about people in this video specifically, they mentioned how people are doing it because they'll die anyway, so they might as well try the AI. This is something that can result from an existential view. It's kind of, we can create our own values and we can create, I suppose, something amazing, even if because we're going to die eventually. And I think that fundamentally a lot of these problems come from having a lot of views that the existentialists have about what humans are, what value is, what's meaning. And if we implement this idea that we can create the values for AI and we can choose exactly what is appropriate for AI to focus on, then I think we do run into some very serious consequences.
Classical existentialism, though, always the ability and the choice is always paired with responsibility. And invariably that means responsibility to more than just the self, but to the other.
These are the many out in faith, the needs of the one. Yeah, okay, we'll go you in the back and then you right there. Okay.
Question to you two, and kind of piggybacking off what you said. Do you think this is a problem with AI, or do you think it's a problem with the rampant, unchecked desire of billionaires and the capitalistic system?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily capitalistic, but the unchecked rampant of whomever, yes.
Yeah. I mean, this is tech bro speak, right?
Yeah.
This is the tech bros at their finest, if you will, telling you what they believe. And, you know, it's... yeah, very much.
Right, yeah.
I mean, this goes to the questions that you were saying before about the techno-billionaires, right? Buying their islands off someplace so that they can live forever no matter what happens, even if there's a Holocaust or something.
Yeah, they've got their place in New Zealand that they're going to go, 'cause, you know, they know they're safe. So, yeah, and it doesn't matter. It's who they are. That's their mindset, and they're leaving this to us. You know.
Yeah.
Not right now, which is like the call for the open letter. That open letter was like, you know, the public, people, society needs to start having open conversations about what this thing is that we're developing, right? Okay. Yeah, sorry, gentlemen.
This goes back to your HVAC perspective.
Yeah.
And career technical education. So you look at a modern car today, all the safety features in it. Now, take that to a repair shop. There's certain diagnostic tools that they can deploy to make sure that your collision now has been you've been made whole again. The information, though, that goes into that is generated by people who might, at best, have a high school education and some career technical education, either through high school, through BOCES or community college. How do you know that when your car leaves the repair shop, that all of the systems really are going to react to collision avoidance or whatever, based on what we would perceive as an inferior education to get a very practical knowledge?
I guess I'd have to get in an accident and figure it out that it was wrong. Like, I don't know. I had a master mechanic who worked on my car 4 times and couldn't figure it out. I figured it out by going into the manual online and realizing that they were fixing my car based on the wrong type of engine. It was a V4, 4.5. I had a 4.75, and they were putting the wrong part in there. So
there are really interesting legal questions about how do you judge liability when the arbiter is some sort of an automatic system? Who's responsible? at several different levels. So the insurance companies probe this an awful lot, right, with their lawyers.
Why they will not do an autonomous
Yeah.
car. Go ahead.
Do you think that like when these billionaires or like those investors will like stop like doing this, all of this stuff? Like during the autonomous lecture, we discussed how a cycle in the law just protects them because of Section 230 and all stuff. So how long will it take, you think?
Yeah. How long will it take? Let's hope it happens.
For them to stop?
Yeah.
They never
Regulation.
stop. They're going to go to the moon with this thing, right? Or Mars, rather. All right. Right. This is the last one. Okay.
Just quickly on this game, I think just raising awareness of the fact that we are offloading decision making by default to these tech pros who have that kind of mentality. Just raising awareness of this will create the right conditions to actually start to get the public to understand that these are unelected, not even officials,
right,
who are making decisions for all of us,
right,
for
right,
our generation and generations
to come.
And we need to figure out how to hold them responsible for it and press them on what this utopian/dystopian future ought to look like.
We're not sure which one it's going to be.
Not for them.
Right. We're not sure which one it's going to be. But what I found was very interesting is where did this clip come from? The Joe Rogan show. So I'm like, all right, yeah, Tristan made it. You know, he's up there and he's, you know, telling, you know, in the Rogan show. So that's hopeful that amount of people were able to see that. Because the more people that understand that, the better. All right. So last is Mogadat and his two books, Solve for Happy and Scary Smart.
You're not using AI today. There are 3 skills that you have to invest in. You have to learn all the tools that are related to your area of specialization. You go to an AI school and you say, I work in FMCG, I do this in that part of the world. What are the top 10 tools I need to learn? The second is what I call the skill of parsing out the truth. Until 2023, where language models became quite the trend, when you went to Google and asked the question, Google gave you 1 million websites back and told you find out what your version of the truth is. It's no longer the case. Today you go to a language model and you ask a question and it very confidently spits out an answer that sometimes is wrong. Now more and more those answers will be fake videos, deep fakes, so many things that are totally true. And the third, of course, is a question of ethics. How can I use AI in a way that is human, that continues to be connected to humanity, that keeps humanity's best interest in mind?
Okay. So one thing I wanted to highlight about his, the middle one, number 2, about parsing the truth. So I recently found out on Instagram, one of the resorts that I like to follow in Norway. Beautiful stuff if you're going to go up north and, you know, you want to watch the Northern Lights. They notified us that they were no longer going to be updating their web guides because they had found out that ChatGPT and the Google AI have been mining their web guides of the tourist places, all the hot spots, all you can do, everything. They've been mining them and not giving them credit in the response. So they saw a 50% decrease in their website traffic. And so that directly affects their tourism business. So they said they're no longer going to be maintaining those guides and they've got to figure out another way to do this. They've, you know, optimized for SEO, and this is a whole new world now. And I think of all of the businesses that are out there who have optimized their websites for SEO, and they've now been completely undercut by AI. So,
yeah.
All right.
I can't believe I find myself defending AI. But, I mean, there is there's something nostalgic and inaccurate in his description of Google. And everything that came before AI. Because studies show that people barely go beyond the first 3-4 results in Google. I mean, sure, it gives you a million options and whatnot, but we assume that the first couple are the right ones, the accurate ones. Just like back in the day, people would go to the library and ask the librarian for a reference, and whatever she gives them or he gives them, that's the kind of the official answer, right? Or when I was a kid, in the prehistoric ages, I opened up an encyclopedia. Yeah. And whatever Encyclopedia Britannica said about, whatever I was studying, that was the truth. So, sure, AI has some issues with confidence, and we talk about it quite often, but I don't know if Google was much better, and I don't know if encyclopedias were much better, and they had their own biases. Yeah, so I'm not so much defending AI as I am reminding myself that it wasn't that great before.
I think what was interesting about that post that I saw is that they went into ChatGPT and they ran the same query, and what they found was the websites that it was linking to were non-existent, right? Or the ones that they tagged as being another organization were actually theirs. So it wasn't so much. They said they were mentioning the places that they would recommend you go, and you went further down. They eventually mentioned their tourism business, right? But the links were all wrong, and so they're trying to figure out like what do we do? And it was interesting because it was not something that I had thought of before. Because yeah, I mean I would use it and not think about it, but now I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yes, I find this very interesting. We again. This conversation is reminding us that there is such a thing as mediation between me clicking and the result being spit out by the machine. There is, for example, sponsors in Google that are going to determine what the first results are going to be for instance. And that's just one type of mediation. So again, going back to things that we that can enlighten us collectively as to what the goal of education ought to be. Pointing out that there is no exact mirror image between my desire for knowledge and what comes out of whatever tools I use for it is something we need to be reminded of. The fact that there is no equivalence between my mental image of the world and what other people might have, their mental image of the world. When I think of a table, what model of the table comes to my head versus what model of the table comes to your head based on your life experience and kinds of tables you've grown up with, right? So just reminding us that mediation exists and that this is something we have to bring into the conversation about AI. It's part of this engaging AI with wisdom.
It doesn't have to be technology.
No.
I mean, if you go to the Norwegian
example,
and you ask them like, where should I go on the street? And if I go to my priest 500 years ago to ask a question about the universe, it's also so basically anything that's not within our direct experience.
Well, this
AI literacy is part of.
Yeah, right. And there's a chain reaction that winds up happening, right? Where the example that I remember is the NBA playoffs last spring. Klay Thompson had an off night, was throwing bricks all night, right? And Grok then turned that into, Klay Thompson was in downtown Sacramento throwing physical bricks through storefront windows. That got picked up by chat-generated GPT news things, and that made it onto sort of normal kinds of news websites.
News cycle, oh my God. All right. Oh.
Yeah, you go first. I just like to quickly piggyback off of that. Like, I thought that was a really good point because sometimes I feel like the whole idea of AI we sometimes honestly use as an excuse. Like the whole thing where it's like on Google, like nobody's going past the first two things. And to go to the point I said earlier about the kid who used AI because he forgot about the assignment the night before, if he didn't know about ChatGPT, the thing that he's doing is he's going to Google, he's going to the first website, he's copying and pasting the website, he's putting that in his PowerPoint stuff. So it's more about, I agree, from the standpoint that it doesn't necessarily change directly the people who aren't putting the effort in, but it's making the people who put the effort in before kind of ignore what we did before. So for I think that's an important part. It's like, well, I have this tool here, so I'm just going to put it in, and I didn't have to do what I did before. But it's going to streamline it a little bit, but it's still your responsibility to make sure that that information is in.
I just want to come in here for a second because it's about the people who are making these things in the end, the developers, right? So if I am hiring someone to optimize my website, right? My search engine optimization, SEO, it's a field, it's a business. People make money doing this. And I have paid you, or I have learned the skill myself as an entrepreneur. And now I'm learning that some AI developer has found the way around it. And I have to now relearn what? Is there something now? Is there an option for me? Or is the developer just left me out? There's no way for me to optimize and get my expertise and my business in front of the people who are searching in whatever venue, tool, whatever it is they're searching.
Yeah, the difficulty is that we're putting too many issues in the same bucket.
Mm-hmm.
And I like a comment that Demystifying, the same that you mentioned before, the Nobel
Yeah,
Prize.
yeah.
In a recent interview in Greece, he mentioned that the skill that we need to teach our students is learn how to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And that now, a lot of librarians in the past, before AI, they spend a lot of time teaching students how to Google the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are a lot of people who have been paid. In 2016, during the elections, it became public that a lot of people were getting paid good money to just write information that was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have to learn how to learn when AI is part of the picture. And it's simply not what a lot of people think, that you just use it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as simple as that. Mm-hmm. In 2017, when the biggest paper came out of the news attention, it was being used to translate things. So when you translate one book to another, there is no issues of ethics or telling you what to do. But then they discovered that it could be used in other ways, and now there is a lot of things that can and are being done. For instance, the prompt engineering is becoming replaced by context engineering.
Mm-hmm.
That is, a lot of using recently Cursor, it does all the things that you read in any training in prompt engineering, it does it automatically. So I ask, do this a project for me, and then it tells me, okay, I'm going to try chain of thought, I'm going to give it examples, I'm going to iterate, and then I'm going to test it. So basically, the Google recipe is give it a task, give it a context, evaluate, repeat.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take the Google prompt engineering course, but these things are already automatic there. So all you need to give is the context. And even the context, in my case, is not necessary because I use it so often that it knows me better than myself. So it knows the context. It knows my name, it knows what I teach, it knows the courses I teach. And then when I give it a project, I'm amazed that it basically, I don't have to tell it anything. So, I mean, learning how to learn is a difficulty.
All right, lady in the back.
Change the words, give me the page numbers, and when I went to look back for the quotes in the article, it wasn't there. It was just basically it summarized the point and made its own quote.
Mm-hmm.
So people aren't going back and checking that information is correct.
Right.
You're gonna get incorrect information even if you prompt it to give you correct
So you have to validate your source, right? Yeah.
You have to validate your source even using Google, but if you use RAG, retrieval augmented generation, you will get only accurate resources.
Yeah, I think that it was a mistake on like using a certain AI tool rather than another one, but just
Yeah, but that's the
But-
learning how to learn part.
That's the learning how to learn, but then, you're here at a university, right? So just think of the people that are out there that are not and don't know what to do. They're just going to take it wholesale and then it's going to be wrong.
We do know, right, provably, that AI systems cannot be both robustly reliable and accurate at the same time. There's a trade-off that always is going to get made. This stuff is going to give you the wrong answer sometimes. It's, either it's going to be robust or it's going to be accurate, but it can't be both. So, that's got to sort of factor in that it's always wrong sometimes, no matter what, rags or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just always wrong.
Yeah, but that's the nature of truth itself.
This is much simpler than the essence of truth. This is, I put in this piece of data, it gives me a wrong answer. It just happens.
The wrong page number. Yeah, go ahead.
AI responds to a prompt like Google. Most people treat AI much more highly than the Google search.
Mhm.
With the search, you know that the source has a person behind it. You can evaluate the source.
Right.
If you see a news article and you see that it's from MSNBC or Fox News, you know that you're getting a bias in some way.
Mhm.
But when you get an article from ChatGPT, and I feel like most people often hold it to a much higher authority, a much higher credibility than something they would see as in a Google search. So I think the difference there is that ChatGPT deciding what's true is seen as more credible by a lot of people than something like a search engine.
But in the
It's really
meantime,
sad.
it got its words from those sites.
Yeah.
That's
It's really sad.
Yeah.
But the issues that are really behind all of these were known before AI. There is a book, Weapons of Math Destruction,
Yeah, yeah.
by
Mhm.
Cathy O'Neill,
Mhm.
where she says that one of the problems is scalability of
Mhm.
them. So you can decide whatever you want, say in your small circle, but are you gonna tell that as a universal truth and to the whole planet?
Mhm.
So what I'm trying to find is what is the right things to teach students so that they are as prepared as possible to handle AI effectively.
Mhm.
And the things that every day there are new tools, and that just chatting is not the only tool. Chatting is one user interface that was created at one point, but there are all kind of agentic things. For instance, if you use model context protocol to create ad agents, they will do the right thing. AI is really good at classifying things.
Mhm.
If you ask AI, tell me whether something is big or small, you can ask 300 things and it probably will not get any of them wrong. And when you are classifying, all you have to say, okay, tell me where to go. If I need to do a computation, should I do a Python program or should I ask somebody? She said, no, you go do the computational part. But if I need to find out where to fly, should I go to a website or read a book? So it will tell you what to do. So the model itself is not intended to be accurate. It's just a probability distribution of how the tokens are
Mhm.
given. I mean, so once the basics is learned, and it doesn't take that long, then people can start making decisions on what they want to do with the information they get.
But we're being taught that AI is a guru. Go ahead.
I think the big thing is it comes down to regulation of mandating publicly used chatbots to have agreed upon information. In a lot of the conversations we've talked about is what is that agreed upon information? But I think it can simply come from like three things in my mind. One is the laws that you're in within your nation, because those are laws that we have to agree upon, otherwise there's punishment if you don't follow those rules. Secondly is copyright and stuff like that. And I think having these chatbots, part of the next goal should be if they already have the power to do all of these things, adding that to the top of it shouldn't be that difficult. And if it is that difficult, then that is going to be one of the first like roadblocks, and I think it should be focused on. But really, if you have, imagine how powerful ChatGPT could really be if it had 100%, it knew the laws, it knew the copyright information, and that was hard coded into the machine, and it wasn't data that it was grabbed from. And I think that's the next step of making databases more accurate, is instead of actually having these rules in the data that it's eating from, is that it's hard coded into the machine of a lot of different machines. Like, okay, we're going to go to Copilot, we're going to go to Gemini, we're going to go to ChatGPT, and say, we need all these publicly used systems to have these rules, and it would be someone's job to make sure those rules are being followed.
That's a big job. Yeah.
Sort of piggybacking off what he said about like unanimously like agreed upon information for these chatbots. That kind of begs the question now: who is deciding what information is to be used by these chatbots? And I think the problem is that these chatbots taking the same biases as their creators that are being made. So, I mean, and then like who decides what information is to be used for these chatbots? Is it the government? Is it like a corporate board? I mean, like either way, I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect answer.
Right.
So this might be an interesting place to wrap up.
Okay.
We just comment on the need for policy, right? At the heart of this, your last couple of comments, is the need for good policy. Good policy is really hard to formulate, right? The EU put out draft policy legislation last year before, that called for something essentially like accurate and reliable kinds of AI releases, technical releases. But they were, clearly it wasn't scientists who were advising this group, because they were using some words that scientifically couldn't happen simultaneously, right? You just couldn't do it. Drafting this policy is really hard. Advocating responsibility and not drafting policy, well, we ran that experiment once, and that's called, it's the cesspool known as social media, right? We don't want to do that again. And not drafting policy is leaving the real policy making to the tech bros who want to just light the fire just to see the explosion.
And the billionaires that are supporting them.
and so that's not a good option either. So we have to fight somehow to craft sensible policies that actually do protect us long term for.
I just one last comment that I agree 100% that that's where the issue is. The issue of having the correct data immutable has been solved with blockchain. We already have ways of having data that is impossible to manipulate as long as we agree upon. And in blockchain, that is what's behind Bitcoin, is majority rule and is maintained by all the miners. So the issue is more about politics and information and policies. There is a video by Karpati in YouTube where in 2 hours he tells you how to create a chat bot from scratch. So it cannot be prohibited. You cannot regulate it. What you can regulate is the information, the information available to train it. But anybody in the world can, if they have enough cheap computing power, which is now becoming regulated, to create it. So it's not that big of a deal. The technique that is not rocket science. It can be done.
All right. Thank you. Oh, yep. One last thought.
Isn't it possible to create a policy for AI? Because like right now we are not talking about US only, right? We're talking about AI generally. So everybody has different historical contexts or historical backgrounds, different religions, different moralities, and like
It's like a nuclear disarmament treaty or something, right? It's like how did that all happen? We still have it. We're still holding on to it, but there's some sort of agreed upon policy somewhere with all the players that we're not going to do it, right? So it's kind of like that. Like, who started that conversation? Was it the UN? Was it the two big countries? Like, who started that where we ended up with that type of agreement that we're not going to, yeah.
Are we going to wait for like Hiroshima or Nagasaki, something like that?
Is I'm hoping.
Yeah, right. Cuba.
Yeah, here's what we're hoping we don't, right? So that's, I think, part of the reason for that letter that came out yesterday was this idea like, let's stop. Let's stop for a minute. This might be our opportunity to come up with these policies and these plans before somebody does something really catastrophic. So, all right, that's it. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. That was fun.
Yeah, all right, that's good.
But thank you.
Absolutely, Joaquin.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Thank you for coming. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.